Good morning, everybody. It's Friday, June the 23rd, about 11:20 a.m. This is meteorologist Shay Gibson of Sailflow and Leading Edge Weather, bringing you a final forecast for the Summer Sailstice 2023 race. So, thanks for those that went to the skippers meeting last night. I had to attend virtually because I've been under the weather all week, but thanks for being patient with me there. We'll go ahead and just jump right in. A little bit stronger wind today, a little bit stronger wind pattern for the immediate coast. So I'll get into that in just a second. But for right now, what we're seeing is that this low pressure, the mid-level low pressure that's been plaguing us all week, sitting over the Tennessee Valley and just spinning up the Gulf moisture, has finally exited and has moved to the northeast over the Ohio Valley. So we'll go ahead and get the draw tool. It's sitting right over here. It's going to continue to spin that southwest flow up. The moisture train along this boundary is going to lessen. That does not mean our chances for storms go away. It just means they become less widespread and a little less and less risk for severe weather. If you look at the low cumulus clouds aloft, you'll see them racing along. The low-level jets have picked up along the tail end of this front, leading up into low. It looks like low pressure is going to develop over the mid-Atlantic, which increases that low-level jet flow a little bit faster. And so I do think we're going to see a little bit stronger of a sea breeze today coupled with it. If we look at the COD visible satellite imagery, that ribbon of low-level jetting is sitting right along the coast and just offshore of the Gulf Stream. So this is the zone that's going to be picking up pretty much through the day around that low as the convergent winds slowly wrap around and in towards the center. So ahead of the front, that's what I'm expecting. So it looks like our sea breezes are only going to be 13 to 17 knots today. I still kept that in our pro forecast, but also hedged it with discussion about low-level jets and the opportunity for the winds to come up into the upper teens to even low 20s inside the harbor. So we could be looking at 17 to 21 knots inside the harbor and some higher gusts. We may get some mid to upper 20s gusts in the harbor this afternoon too. So be aware of that. Be aware that the winds will be punchy, a little bit strong at times, especially late afternoon, and then especially offshore. Looks like the low-level jets haven't changed too much on that. If we look at the 6,000 feet, I'll go to flight level 3,000. And just to take a quick peek, now this is 1 o'clock today. You can see here the low-level jets have gathered, and just up along the Grand Strand, the southeast North Carolina outer capes, you're going to be feeling this a lot, Outer Banks, where that low-level flow. It doesn't mean that we get 30 to 40 knot winds down at the surface. It just means a portion of that makes it based on what's called geostrophic flow. So not to get too technical, but some of this does make it to the surface to enhance the local sea breezes up and down the East Coast. But as you can see, as we get offshore of South Carolina, the low-level jets are offshore and north, the low-level jets increase. So we did talk about that last night. Going forward in time, we see that the LLJs pretty much stay offshore. They start to climb a little bit northeast and north up the coast as that low continues to migrate a little bit farther north up over the Ohio Valley and sits. So that means the LLJ pattern is going to eventually weaken for us as that low fizzles out and joins with the mid-Atlantic low. So that's what the thinking is for today, tonight, and into tomorrow, is that the low-level jet profile offshore still won't be incredibly strong tonight. It'll be strong, but not too bad. Going to sail flow right now, we see basically, I'd say about 14, anywhere from 13 to 17 knots right now along the beaches. So forecast is verifying at this very time for the southerly flow. It should all back south-southwest in time, so I'm expecting at least it's at 188 degrees, so we'll probably get up to 195, 200 by late afternoon and go from there along the coast and inside the harbor. So just be aware that the harbor likely is going to be shifting or backing winds up and towards the 200-degree range. As far as late afternoon as well. The Wolf Wharf, let me just run all the available miles for the harbor real quick. And it looks like the harbor, some of the miles have it coming up into the low 20s. So that's not out of the question. The Weatherflow Wharf model indicating some mid to upper 20s by around 3 o'clock p.m. That could be of concern if we do see those LLJs settle down. I think we're going to be on the lower end of that in the 20 to 24 knot ranges if we're going to punch up into those 20s. But just be aware of those upper 20s gusts at the race start around 3 o'clock and then settling down a bit around 6 o'clock p.m. back down to those 18 to 20 knot. 18 to 22 knot or 17 to 21 knot ranges. Now, going offshore, I know in the meeting last night we talked about going out to 41,004. So let's take a quick look at that sensor, if I can get it to work. There we go. We run all the models on this. And here we go for today, tonight. As we get into the 11 o'clock, it looks like the pattern, the offshore pattern at 15 knots right now, gust 17 is going to come up. At some point, we'll be up in the 18 to 22 knot ranges offshore at 18 miles respectively, and all the way out to 40 miles. I do think the winds will slowly back as we get overnight tonight. We're going to be shifting from about 190, 195 over to about 220, 225. Some of those ranges around 11, 12, 1 o'clock p.m. We'll see the winds backing. More models are suggesting a west-southwest turn, so we could get up towards 220 to 230 at times overnight, and with the jet profile holding 18 to 22 knots. So just be aware of that. That the winds will back a little. It looks like a little bit more agreement on just a tad farther than southwest on the veer. So be aware of that as well. Now, Charleston or the nearshore wave prediction system. We'll go out to buoy 41004 for the forecast. Again, we talked last night about waves being around 4 to 5 feet, well out there today. But as we get into tonight, the waves start to steadily decrease. But out that far, you're still looking at about 5 feet at about 5 to 6 seconds. So it's going to be really, really rough out there, just because that southerly build over time has grown the swell with consistent south winds, with low-level jetting for days and days, in storm activities. We've seen some swell kick up, so it's going to be kind of rough. It's going to be, you might get a little bit beat up out there. It will not settle down until probably tomorrow afternoon, when the swell starts to come down, especially inshore. If we go out to 18 miles and say we're coming back in by tomorrow morning, you start to slip below the 4-foot mark as we round the sunrise tomorrow. So that's of good news. At least it'll be calming down on the way back in for the early morning fetch. If we look at the winds for the morning, I do think we do have potential to see a westerly land breeze. We saw it this morning where the low-level jet profile bled off a little bit this morning, and we saw some westerly winds in the 7 to 11 knot ranges. So with that said, the weather flow warp is sniffing that out, more of a west-southwest flow. It doesn't want to let go of that southerly element just yet. I do think as we get into Saturday morning early, there is a chance for a couple of hours we may see a little bit of a west-southwest or a westerly wind early, between 5 and say 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning near the shore. The winds will probably hold anywhere from 5 to 9 to 6 to 9 or 6 to 10 knots if it does back fully west. And then it won't take very long for the winds to resume their west-southwest, southwesterly flow as they did this morning. So might be fighting through a west wind for a little while through sunrise, but it'll eventually back in time. So hopefully everybody be back by then because of the strong winds offshore. Just take care out there. I think for precip, the HRRR, we're looking at the model for today. It does not, most of the storm activity stays offshore of the Gulf Stream. And then we see isolated pockets of showers and isolated storms through the day. One area marching up from Savannah area up the coast looks like it may fall apart or just stay inland right around the evening time, 8, 9 o'clock. Some more storm activity offshore, and most of it looks to start to dissipate as we go into time overnight. I would not rule out some offshore showers and storms. Just know there'll be pockets of them. They'll be moving over very quickly because of the low-level jets pushing them forward. So whatever comes won't last very long. Temperatures today, mid-80s with low 70s tonight. Tomorrow we pick back up to upper 80s and into the low 90s into this weekend. So pretty comfortable air temperatures out there. We do have a waxing crescent moon, and tidal effects are quasi-neap tide. So we have a pretty much normal high tide, but a higher than normal low tide at about 1.6 feet. So just a little bit of a neap in there before we get back to more of a regular standard as we get into tonight and tomorrow for the rest of the weekend. Some of those higher low tides up near 2 feet means we keep that quasi neap tide phase going, but the normalized schedule goes into effect at nighttime. Other than that, folks, I think that's going to be a wrap. Best of luck on your races out there. Stay safe and Godspeed to you. Hopefully everybody has a good time and fares well. So we'll see you on the next race. Good luck, everyone. Thanks for watching.